Hey, and welcome to this week's Inbound Debate. As always, on my right, I'm joined by Dan the Man Holt, and on my left, Nick Go Ape Man, Pape Man. And this week, we are talking about the new banner ads that Google have been testing in the late part of October. Yes, that's right, after their 2005 statement, which said we will never have banner ads in our search results, Google are now testing it with certain branded queries. I think about 30 different brands were in this test, and Google said that it affected less than 5% of search results, but still they're contradicting themselves. So what do we think about the inclusion of banner ads in the search results for branded queries, Dan?
Well, I think it's first of all worth acknowledging that in the technology sector, 8 years is a long time, right? So to keep any kind of promise for 8 years, I think you're doing pretty well. Things change, and obviously in this case, certain principles have to change with them. Mm-hmm. I think really it was almost kind of inevitable. I think when you look at their shift towards brand over the last kind of 12 months, I think this kind of, not inevitable, but I think it's certainly it doesn't come as an enormous surprise. And I think now do you see Microsoft doing something very, very similar as well within their OS. Clearly it's something that both companies feel both brands and users are going to benefit from.
Yeah, I think it's a good step forward. People are searching for brands; they're going to find that person anyway, and it's now become a lot more expensive to bid on your competitors' brand search terms due to like low quality scores and things. So actually, Google's not really monetizing this space particularly well anymore. So by kind of forcing your hand a bit, if you're a brand, you kind of need to have this banner ad at the top of your results to get the traffic through. You might as well bid for it. I mean, it's like, if your door to a shop on the high street was quite stiff to open, you'd grease the hinges and get people in more easily. It's the same thing. It costs you very, very little, but you're actually making it a lot easier for people to find you. So it just makes a lot of sense to bid on it. So I think it's a positive move. They're not making, they'll make a bit of money from it, but
I think the contradiction's interesting, and I think, the fact that it has been 8 years shows that they're willing to kind of go against their word. 13-year-old me swore to everyone that I would never leave MySpace. And look at me, I've got a profile on Facebook, and I haven't logged in on MySpace for at least 2 weeks. I don't know what's going on. Now, do we think that this is a sign that maybe they might roll this out to non-branded queries, Dan?
I think there's a hell of a difference between doing this for branded queries and then potentially doing it for non-branded queries. I think we're a million miles away from it ever happening with the latter. But I do think that if this is really a success for the brands, for Google, for the users, then it's only a matter of time before we see things becoming increasingly visual. I just don't think it's going to take this format because it just means one company totally dominates.
Yeah, big, because what they're doing is a massive banner at the top of the search results. That just couldn't happen. People would have a massive kind of panic and all sorts of things. People get pretty pissed off, I think. But basically, I think what we'll see is much more kind of a visual push on the organic side first. So things are already getting pretty visual. You're getting bigger images and you're getting video results and everything else that's been coming on the last sort of 10 years. So I think the more Google does that, the more AdWords is going to have to keep up. And you'll probably find AdWords results start getting a bit more visual. You've got the star ratings. That's probably the first step, really.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think, obviously, these brand inquiries that they've been testing, they haven't even said if they're going to roll that out. Now, if they did the same with non-branded queries, as you both pointed out, it would be ridiculous. It would be completely dominant, and I don't think it would be fair for someone, a smaller business that wanted to compete in these terms. So I don't think we'll see it exactly in that format. But yeah, they're looking to a more visual search result. So I think I can see them trying to take elements of what they're doing here and using it in the search results later on. Now, if you could dominate, let's take for a second, Google were letting people, or certain people, bid on any term with this massive banner ad, and you completely dominate it. What search result would you go for? What search result would you want to dominate, Dan?
Well, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I've been jostling it out for SERP domination for my name with the New Zealand Paralympic swimmer Dan Holt for years now. I'd really like to just draw a line onto that. I'd like every time someone types in Dan Holt for an enormous super banner ad of me, possibly shirtless, decided yet, to appear immediately. Because it must be, that search must happen, at least once every couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned payday loans. There's obviously a route for a lot of people. I guess I'm an impressions guy. I would go for how to maximise impressions. So what's the most searched term in Google? It's probably porn, I would imagine, which is, you know, if you in terms of impressions and just, you know, if you're going to be honest, like you're just going to have to rank for that. Should probably ship boatloads of Viagra and make loads of money off the back of it. I mean, you can go down a sort of 3 monthly search route, but yeah, I'm sorry, I have to go with the most search then.
Yeah, well, I'm going with car insurance because I just have my own desert island. I would, I'd just basically leave the country, have a tax haven in Hong Kong, and then just live on my desert island. If I had that big spot for car insurance, it'd be ridiculous.
I would quite like that.
Okay, well, thank you guys for joining me. As always, this has been the Inbound Debate, and we'll see you next week.